Hello guys, and hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving day. Today I'm going to discuss seizures and the onset of seizures for my youngest daughter, how we were able to recognize what she was having, and how we were able to recognize the amount of time that she needed to recover from or fully recover from the seizure. They were really quick. What she had was a condition, well, obviously the tuberous sclerosis complex, or the TSC, was what caused the onset of seizures. But hers were, the types of seizures that she was having were called petite mal. So I'm going to discuss that today on today's video. I'm going to give you a little insight of what we did, some scary scenarios that we had to deal with, but also some, it gave us a lot of insight and kind of in the understanding of her onset of seizures. Obviously, there's so many different types, but with hers, we were able to recognize it. We were able to identify when it was an emergency. Also recognize when they were going to be pretty quick and how quickly she recovered for them. So it really helped out a lot in understanding her type of seizures. So also, I just want to remind everyone, when I do my videos, I am not a doctor, a nurse. I do not have a background in the medical field. This is all real life experiences and stuff that we dealt with or have dealt with and continue to deal with, and the way we address the scenario or the situation, or how we dealt with it head on. So hello if you are new to my channel, and welcome back if you're a seasoned subscriber. On Mondays I do videos all about fashion and accessory and just stuff that I enjoy doing to keep my mind off of the second half of the week videos, which is all about TSC and FSGS. TSC being tuberous sclerosis complex, which is it's a very rare disease that causes tubers to grow in different organs throughout your body. And then for FSGS, that is right there. I'm noting it there so that way you can kind of see what it's called. And it's a disease, it's a kidney disease that causes scarring in the glomeruli of the kidney's filtering units. This scarring unfortunately makes it difficult for the kidneys to filter waste, which eventually can cause or lead to kidney failure. Like, it all depends, right? These two diseases, the onsets are all both very different. They are very rare as well, and very difficult to manage because they're so unique to the person that actually was born with the disease. Neither of these are curable. The symptoms can only be addressed, and hopefully we can hold them off long enough that the person can live a long and healthy life. So thank you again for joining me today, and I hope you all had a wonderful or have an amazing day, and I hope you had an amazing day, depending on the time zone that you're in. So let's get started. Okay, so the biggest thing is that when we found out that our youngest daughter, when she was going to be born with the TSC gene, or the tuberous sclerosis gene, we understood that she had TSC and she was going to be born with TSC. TSC being, again, tuberous sclerosis complex, which is a very unique disease all on its own, right? Unfortunately, when you are born with TSC, you just don't know how it's going to affect you. With TSC, some people or some babies can be born directly with just having seizures, onset of seizures, and they're nonstop, depending on how many tubers you have in the brain. And then you have other kids that don't have any seizures. They might have a few tubers in the brain, but they're not affecting the brain in that capacity. But they can have a tuber in the heart, or born with a tuber in the heart that could be blocking the blood flow. So it's all very difficult to manage, just because you don't know how you're going to be affected you don't know how your child's going to be affected as they're born. Some people can have them in the tubers in the kidney and affect the kidney. So it's also unfortunately so rare and so unique to that person and that individual. So with my youngest, she was born with a tuber in her front left lobe of her brain. So when we found out that she had tubers in the brain, she had a bunch of smaller ones, but the one in the left side of her brain ended up being a sega, which is a large tuber. Well, it grew into a sega. It started off a smaller tuber and it grew into a sega, which is a larger tuber. It was causing issues. Obviously, she started to have seizures. Now, with the infantile, with infantile spasms, that one, it's really difficult to to recognize the signs whether or not your child's having them. The reason why is because with the spasm, usually the body stiffens suddenly, the back might arch, and the arms will get really, they'll lean forward. So it's kind of like the baby's doing this, right? And the arch. The legs and the head bend forward. However, the spasms are kind of hard to recognize because babies, all the little baby sudden movements, especially, you know, it's hard because they'll be doing some tummy time, or, you know, again, it's sudden, it's quick, so it could be within seconds of something happening like that. So with that specific type, and what was difficult for us was because our baby, she also was born with bilateral club feet. So we actually did the poinsettia treatment, and I'll put a link below, that way you kind of know what is going on. With bilateral club feet, your feet are pointed in and they kind of slant upward. It all depends. Like, you can have one foot that has club feet, you can have both feet. Typically, it's better to have both feet because they are the same length. Typically, if you have one foot that is clubbed, then you normally have to wear like a larger heel or some form of a platform shoe on that foot because it's typically shorter than the other one. So we were fortunate that she had both. I was actually born as well with bilateral club feet, and I'm fine. Back in the day, though, the forms of treatment were slightly different than they are today. Today, they're far more advanced. With her treatment, though, it was all casting, so she had to wear the bar at night, and hence why it was difficult for us to recognize whether or not she was having infantile spasms, because whenever she would wear the bars, her feet would stiffen up and she would start to cry, and it was only while she was having the bars on. So it was really hard for me to recognize whether or not it was because of the bars or was she having infantile spasms. So we dealt with that extra element of a hurdle, right, during that whole process. So with infantile spasms, or IS, it usually begins with the infant between 3 and 8 months, but it also can start, or the child could be okay, and then it could be an onset as like around 1 year of age, and last typically between 2 to 5. Again, it all depends how the tubers are impacting your brain. So with my youngest, she started to have seizures like around 3 to 4 years old, where she would turn her head right. She would turn her head right and lift her left arm. It was instant. In the beginning, it was about probably 5 to 15 seconds long. It all dependent on the scenario and the situation. Obviously, every instance was slightly different, but she would always do the same movement: up, right, constant. So she was having about 3 to 5 quick 10 to 15 second seizures per week on average, from the age of about 3 to 4, like I said, all the way to probably about between 8 and 9 years old, I would say. She was having them on average. It did start to slow down to three times per week, and they were going quicker. Now, the scary thing about her onset of seizures, though, if she was standing, she would fall and get hurt. She could fall and get hurt. So as she started to get a little bit older, I would tell her to sit on the ground immediately if she felt something, but make sure that she was safe and sit down on the floor immediately, because I didn't want her to fall back and hit her head. She could have busted her head open or gave herself a concussion. So we did teach her that early in life. We also taught her how to put her head down on her desk if she started to feel like any onset of seizures coming on. At this point in her age, she knows exactly when it's coming. So she immediately sits down and puts her head in between her legs. So unfortunately with the seizures, there was one instance that was really, really scary for us. I tried to catch her. Here in the South, a lot of the floors are made with tiles. If you've ever been in a southern home, you actually see them a lot more often than not, obviously more because of the tropics and storm season. It just makes more sense, right? So during our first year here in the South, we lived in a rental, and the entire floor was all huge tiles, and my daughter, she was walking towards me, and I saw it in her eyes. Immediate head tilted to the right slightly. I already knew what was coming. Arm went up, and I went to grab her, and she was too far from me, and she fell back and hit her head. Obviously, she was, going through the seizure process for a few seconds, but when she woke up, she was screaming in pain. So we had to rush her to the ER. That moment still is like embedded in my head, and I'll never forget that instance because it was extremely scary. It was just one of those situations that, and I dove. I tried everything I could to catch her, and I just couldn't. But she was still very little. She was about 5-6 years old, so it was very difficult to see, because you never want anything like that to happen to your child. Now, the types of seizures she was having, like I discussed before, they're called petite mal. These seizures are very brief lapses in just attention. A lot of times they're more common in children than they are adults. Many children outgrow them, but some children do develop into other types of seizures. Her seizures have not changed. They're still petite mals. She is 16 now, but they are still very quick, 5 to 10 seconds long. If you don't see it, you probably miss it. And it does take her, I always recommend that the teachers give her at least 5 minutes to 10 minutes to just recover. She's usually back in pretty quickly as far as understanding what happened and coming back within 30 seconds. But I still tell her, you need to give yourself 5 to 10 minutes just to make sure that you're okay, your balance isn't thrown off. Because with any seizure, your balance is off. You have really bad headaches. Some people may have stomach pains. So it's really important to recognize those signs. With my youngest, she used to have those sterile seizures too. She would have quick petite mal seizures where she's staring off, and you'd have to kind of wave your hand in front of her face just to recognize that she's having a little seizure. But she was instant. It would be like 5 seconds long, and they were very sporadic and very quick. She outgrew them. Amber outgrew them pretty quickly when she got older. My youngest definitely has had more seizures in her lifetime than my oldest. We're very fortunate for that, where the seizures were more apparent, obviously, in the youngest, but it still was very difficult to manage because of the whole entire process itself and how dangerous it is when she's not around. You have to teach the teachers to recognize the signs, understand what's going on, allow her the time to recover, understand that she's just having a seizure, but she will get back. It's not that she's ignoring you, or and that was a big one when she was younger. The school systems themselves, it's really, really important, and I want to hit on this before I do end this video because it's so important and I've been through it. The school systems themselves, you want to make sure that if your child has a disability, or especially something like a child that has a seizure or has seizures, that you take him to a school that knows how to manage kids with disabilities. My biggest regret that I did was that at a very young age, I sent her to a school. It was supposed to be it was graded A school, but had no clue how to manage a child with a disability. Even the after school program there was atrocious. Like, they literally had no idea what was going on. They would, call us for meetings all the time, telling us that, my youngest wasn't paying attention, wasn't following directions. And when I would talk to my little one, she would tell me, "Mom, it's because I had a seizure." And I would explain this to them, and they would again call me for another meeting because another teacher or after school teacher would report my youngest again, and she would tell them again. So it got to a point where I went and I saw the principal, and I pulled her out of the school because it was just so horrendous. It was such a terrible school for kids with special needs. And that's why it's so important to have these programs, have these special needs programs in these schools. Have at least 5 to 10 teachers in that school that understand the importance of children with special needs, understand what to recognize when these kids are having these issues, and knowing how to manage children with special needs. So when I did take her out and I put her into another school, The teachers were absolutely amazing. They knew they knew how to look for it because I explained to them again in detail, provided them with the information, the emergency medication if needed. And her teacher, her first grade teacher in the new school she was so amazing with her. And my youngest absolutely loved this teacher, and I thought she was like the best. She was a younger teacher, but she was willing to learn and understand what was going on. So I appreciated that. Even if she didn't understand the disease, she went home, she researched it, she started to understand what Alani was dealing with and gave her the time and the patience. And I was just in tears when I finally found this school that was able to help her out. So yes, dealing with seizures is not fun. It's very difficult. There's a lot of stuff that you have to look out for and be careful. When you do if you do recognize seizures, please be patient with that person. Try to recognize the type of seizures they're having. If not, take your child to a neurologist right away. Find a good neurologist. Mediocre neurologists are the worst, and I'll tell you, because I went through at least 7, actually 8. I went through 8 before I found the one. So it's really important to find a good neurologist. Make sure you do your research. Make sure you interview that neurologist. Find out how long they've been around. If your child has tuberous sclerosis complex, make sure that neurologist is familiar with the disease, because the onset of different types of seizures can come about at any time, especially if your child has tumors in the brain. So I know that not many people might know what tuberous sclerosis complex is, but I really hope that this gets out there and it helps those moms and dads that are dealing with that, because it's a scary disease, and it's definitely something that I've seen children that have back-to-back seizures and they can't get out of it. And then I've seen children have very, very severe seizures, and then I see my little one having her petite mal. So there could be a series of different types of seizures that your child has, but recognizing them is what keeps your child safe. And it's really important to keep your baby safe, always, no matter how old they get. So thank you for taking the time out to check out my video. I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I hope you all had a wonderful and happy and amazing day. So please don't forget that on Mondays I do videos all about fashion and accessories, and on Fridays I do videos all about TSC and FSGS. If you are interested in either or, please hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell so you can be notified on all of my latest videos. And please don't forget to hit the like button and comment below so that you can help me with the algorithm gods and continue to help me grow my channel. And please don't ever forget to focus through and evolve.